Welcome to Business News. Welcome to Spectrum News at 12. I am Blyden Okem, coming to you live from Uyo. Let's take a look at the headlines. An ask proposes voting rights of prisoners in electoral law. Court orders FCT workers to suspend ongoing strikes. Plus, Trump raises U.S. tariffs on South Korea imports to 25%. Details of these stories and more in a moment. We begin the news this afternoon from the national scene, where President Bola Tinubu is in Ankara, the capital of Republic of Turkey, on a state visit aimed at strengthening bilateral relations between both countries. According to a statement issued by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Nanuga, the President was received by a Turkish government delegation led by the Minister of National Education, Yusuf Tekin. On arrival, the presidency revealed that Tinubu's visit is focused on consolidating the existing cordial relations between Nigeria and Turkey and exploring additional areas of cooperation to advance a mutually beneficial partnership. During the visit, President Tinubu is expected to hold discussion with his Turkish counterpart, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The program will also include the signing of several memorandum of understanding between both countries, alongside other official engagements. Meanwhile, President Tinubu has called Nigerians to embrace unity, religious tolerance and peaceful coexistence as critical pillars for national security and development. The President, who made the call at the 4th International Conference of the Center for Islamic Civilization and Interfaith Dialogue at Bayero University, Kano, was represented by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris. Addressing current national challenges, the President urged Nigerians to reject narratives that portray the country as intolerant of religious freedom. He stressed that national security is closely linked to unity and mutual respect among citizens. He further reiterated his administration's commitment to protecting lives and property and confronting criminality across the country. Away from that, Vice President Kashim Shettima is set to inaugurate a new learning fund and empowerment platform targeted at unlocking the potential of Nigerian children, women and youth. In a statement issued by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Communication, Office of the Vice President Stanley Nkwocha, the event is scheduled for January 28 in Abuja. According to the statement, the initiative will form part of the outcome of the President's and Africa's Social Impact Summit ASIS 2026 high-level policy engagement. Speaking ahead of the engagement, Shettima said Nigeria is poised for a prosperity-filled future through the government's sustained and effective mobilization of funding, support and expertise both internationally and locally. He added that the engagement is a critical step towards delivery-driven partnerships that unlock the full potential of women and youth, strengthen human capital and accelerate inclusive growth. In a separate development, the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Bangira, has called on global investors and real estate developers to partner with Nigeria to scale housing delivery under the Renewed Hope Housing Program. Dangiwa, in a statement signed by the Director for Press and Public Relations, Badamasi Haba, described the country's housing market as one of the largest, most immediate and bankable demand opportunities in Africa. The minister made this known in Saudi Arabia during the high-level panel session at the 2026 Saudi Real Estate Forum, RFF 2026. According to him, Nigeria's housing strategy under the Renewed Hope agenda is built on a clear affordability benchmark, explaining that the Renewed Hope housing program adopted an income-based framework to ensure that housing products align with citizens' actual earnings. The minister assured investors that the government's role is to de-risk housing delivery by addressing constraints only the public sector can resolve, including land readiness, supporting infrastructure, and improvements to approval and delivery processes that reduce costs and shorten timelines. From the legislature, the National Assembly has introduced a proposal in the ongoing amendment of electoral law that would give prison inmates in Nigeria the right to vote in elections. The leader of the Senate, Senator Opeyemi Bamidele, gave the hint ahead of the resumption of the National Assembly from Christmas break, adding that the proposed law would mandate the release of funds for general elections at least 1 year before the day of elections. Bamidele further revealed that Electoral Bill 2026 introduces no fewer than 20 defining highlights that would eventually differentiate it from the previous electoral regimes. On judicial matters, the National Industrial Court of Nigeria, sitting in Abuja, has granted an interlocutory injunction filed by the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and the FCT administration compelling workers under the Joint Union Action Committee to suspend their ongoing strike. The claimant had dragged the chairman of the Joint Union Action Committee, Rekatu Hoyatia, and his secretary, Abdullahi Omar Salah, before the court, seeking an order restraining the defendant and their agent from embarking on any industrial action, picketing, or lockout. Delivering his ruling today, Justice Edie Sublimin held that although the matter before the court amounted to a trade dispute and had met the required legal conditions, the defendant's right to embark on industrial action was not absolute. He ruled that workers were prohibited from participating in a strike once the dispute had been referred to the National Industrial Court, adding that where such a strike was already ongoing, it must cease pending the determination of the case. In Africa, the United Nations spokesperson Stephen Dujarric has announced the launch of a $852 million humanitarian needs and response plan for Somalia, which he said is 40% less than last year and aims to support 2.4 million people. Dujarric stressed that the reduction in funding is due to constrained resources, not reduced humanitarian needs. He noted that there will be significant gaps in essential services as less than half of those in need of humanitarian aid will be able to receive help under the 2026 plan. The UN spokesperson added that without urgent and scale-up assistance, the combined prolonged drought, a livelihood collapse, displacement, disease outbreaks, and reduced humanitarian aid will worsen food insecurity, water shortages, and increase health risks. On the foreign scene, US President Donald Trump has announced he's raising tariffs on South Korean imports to 25% after accusing Seoul of not living up to a trade deal reached last year. In a post on social media, Trump has said he would increase levies on South Korea from 15% across a range of products, including automobiles, lumber, pharmaceuticals, and all other reciprocal tariffs. Trump noted that South Korean lawmakers have been slow to approve the deal, while the US acted swiftly to reduce its tariff in line with the transaction agreed to. Meanwhile, South Korea said it had not been given official notice of a decision to raise tariffs on some of its goods and wanted urgent talks with Washington over the issue. It added that South Korea's Industry Minister Kim Jong-kwang, who is currently in Canada, will visit Washington as soon as possible to meet U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Still on the foreign scene, the European Union and India have announced a landmark trade deal after nearly 2 decades of on-off talks, as both sides aim to deepen ties amid tensions with the U.S. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen made this known in a post on X. Von der Leyen and European Council President Antonio Costa are in Delhi, where they met Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi at a bilateral summit. Both India and the EU are seeking to strengthen strategic and trade ties with the rest of the world as they contend with economic and geopolitical pressure from the US. Still to come in the news, a Falconers coach, Aduka, are confident as Nigeria prepares for Senegal Under-20 World Cup qualifier. Stay tuned for details of this in a moment. Welcome back. On a business news, a Dangote refinery has announced a 100 naira per litre increase of the retail price of premium motor spirit, a PMS nationwide. The company disclosed this in a statement yesterday. According to $20 billion refinery plant, its gantry price of petrol is now sold at 799 naira per litre, while the retail price is 839 naira per litre, up from 699 naira and 739 naira per litre sold since December last year. The Chief Executive Officer of Dangote Petroleum Refinery, David Bird, stated that the refinery continues to supply the domestic market with approximately 50 million litres of PMS daily, with nationwide evacuation and distribution operating normally. Still in business, Nigeria's export to Africa reached 4.82 trillion naira in the first half of 2025, up 14% year-on-year, compared to 4.21 trillion naira in the first half of 2024. West Africa absorbed over 62% of Nigeria's continental exports. Controller General of the Nigeria Customs Service, Basha Adeniyi, said the trend last year highlights Nigeria's role as a hub for intra-continental trade and value chains, adding that it is a clear signal of strengthening regional trade momentum. Meanwhile, data from the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) show that West Africa has remained Nigeria's largest market on the continent. In health, pharmacists have called for a more balanced and inclusive composition of the National Task Force on Clinical Governance and Patient Safety, warning that the current structure could undermine patient safety and sector-wide trust. They argue that a task force, which currently has 18 physicians, 1 pharmacist, 2 nurses, 2 administrators, and a representative of public interest, failed to reflect the multidisciplinary nature of clinical governance. The druggists maintain that no single cadre should dominate a task force meant to address complex clinical challenges. According to the pharmacist, a more balanced, multidisciplinary approach would strengthen health sector decision-making, foster collaboration among professionals, and ultimately improve health outcomes and ensure patient safety. Still in health, the Nigerian Association of Dermatologists has raised the alarm over a critical 2-year shortage of multi-drug therapy for leprosy patients across the country, a warning that the absence of treatment is making a cure impossible for affected individuals. The association disclosed that regulatory and administrative delays have prevented the clearance and distribution of essential medications, despite their procurement that donation are through official World Health Organization approved channels. It noted that the prolonged unavailability of the life-saving drugs has left patients in multiple states without access to treatment, leading to progressive nerve damage, disability, deformities, and continued community transmission. According to the World Health Organization, leprosy, also known as Hansen disease, is a chronic bacterial infection disease that affects the skin, peripheral nerves, upper respiratory tract, and the eyes, leading to physical deformity. And now to sports. The Nigeria Football Federation (NFF) has entered the Super Falcons for the WAFUB Four-Nation Tournament in Abidjan as part of preparation for the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations (WAFCON) in Morocco. The preparatory tournament will take place in Côte d'Ivoire between February 27th and March 7th, ahead of WAFCON schedule for March 17 to April 3rd. NFF Director of Competition Ruth David confirmed Nigeria's participation, describing it as a crucial step in ensuring the reigning African champions are fully prepared for the continental showpiece. According to her, the WAFUB Secretariat has invited Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, Nigeria, and Senegal, all WAFCON participants, for the mini-tournament. She added that the Super Falcon squad list submitted by head coach Justin Madugu will be released in the coming days through official channels. Still in sports, head coach of Nigeria's under-20 women's team, the Falconets Moses Adoku, has expressed satisfaction with the team's preparation ahead of that third-round FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifying fixtures against Senegal. Adoku told newsmen in Abuja that a week spent in camp had been productive, with all invited players reporting on time and responding positively to training sessions. He said the technical crew had focused on tactical organization, team cohesion, and overall strategy, adding that the players demonstrated commitment, discipline, and high intensity throughout the preparation. Reports say Nigeria will host the first leg of the encounter at Lekong Salami Stadium, Ibadan, on February 7th, while the return leg is scheduled for February 14 in Dakar, Senegal. The Falconets, two-time silver medalists at the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup and semi-finalists at the tournament in Japan 14 years ago, are expected to travel to Ibadan today to intensify preparation for their fixtures. On our entertainment news, actor Gideon Okeke has criticized the entertainment industry for prioritizing Afrobeat stars over actors, actresses, and filmmakers. In a video on social media, Okeke questioned why musicians receive global recognition while Nollywood professionals are overlooked. He referenced top music stars wondering if they would acknowledge Nollywood talent if they looked beyond their circle. Okeke noted that despite Afrobeat's global attention, Nigerian film lack international exposure and endorsement, stating that influential figures aren't promoting Nollywood. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 12. I am Blyden Ukem. Enjoy the rest of your day.